today we are going to do something different. It's good to shake things up a little. It's very good to get outside of our comfort zone. I mean, if you don't even have the courage to get out of your comfort zone, which is just a little thing, just a tiny step to the side, if you can't do that, then you're going to have a hard time being courageous at all. Anywhere. And even though all about us, on our right and our left, there is injustice in our world today, many of us are still pretty comfortable. It's not the worst sin. It's not good. But it's not the worst. And if you are among the oppressed or the disenfranchised, then today, in fact, you are our leaders. I would ask you to help lead us today. If you live in discomfort, the rest of us need to learn how to do that. Because if you are, on the other hand, being comfortable in the midst of injustice in this world, then we need to practice being uncomfortable to prepare to engage in justice making. Because justice requires not only action, although it does absolutely require action, but it also absolutely requires integrity, which requires reflection, which for the comfortable in an unjust system becomes quickly uncomfortable. So we need to practice this discomfort and not be afraid of it. We need to get out of our comfort zone to practice being comfortable in risk and in vulnerability. We need to get out of our comfort zone to practice turning what is uncomfortable into something inspirational, into something that creates sympathy, engenders empathy, and is compelling because it is evocative, memorable, and resonant in our bones. Today is about passing through the chrysalis of discomfort and into the splendor of resolve and deep knowing. So will you come and go with me, with one another, onto the ledge today? Are you ready?
One foot is.
Okay. You shake one foot, the rest of your body will shake too. By the way, just a trigger warning. It's going to be loud in here eventually, so if anybody is set off by that, really, it's okay to head out and chill in the beautiful outside. Because today we are going to engage in a little political theater, a little performance art. And when I say we, I do not mean me, with the we being you as witness. You're coming on the ledge with me. We will perform together. Now, there's nobody here but us, right? So it may seem a little self-serving. But then, an artist changes both the audience and the art and the artist's self when the artist performs. So my hope is that what we are about to do will be somewhat like that. Maybe we are performing for ourselves to trigger a change in ourselves, to knock something loose in ourselves, to transform ourselves so that we may transform the world. And at any rate, we do have an audience. You may look to either side of you. So today we will be both performer and observer. Some of you are like chomping at the bit, and others of you are looking for the exits. I know the feeling. I know both of those feelings. So we're getting out of our comfort zones and to prepare our bodies and minds and spirits for the risky, vulnerable, and uncomfortable work of justice, which requires commitment to action and integrity, which requires courage and vulnerability, which requires us to bravely reflect on our role in unjust systems as well as our role in their repair. And also to find the spiritual ground and faith needed for that dark night of struggle. We need to practice being uncomfortable. This is ahead of us. If you want to do justice work, this sensation should be one that you get familiar with. By the way, in familiarizing yourself with it, I believe there is some real power. So today in this practice, you will be both giver and gifted. You will be both artist and audience. And I should mention, you will also be competitors. So here's how it's going to work. You do look different, I'm telling you. So we are going to raise our voices against the status quo. We are going to raise our voices so that our bodies and the bodies next to you and maybe the bodies in the neighborhood down the hill will know that the trajectory of injustice in this land and in our hearts will not be tolerated.
Find the cost of freedom, buried in the ground. Mother Earth will swallow you. Lay your body down.
Some of you are saying, what was that? Wow. And some of you are saying, what the hell is that? What has that got to do with anything? But it does, and I've struggled to put it into words, which is kind of the point, I think, at the end. And it is in the midst of confusion and heartbreak and attending to justice, hearing that haunting refrain that we closed with. You know, we generated the confusion, the heartbreak, and are oriented toward justice, and then to hear that refrain. In it, for me, there is an accusation and a challenge, but also some assurance somehow. So, I don't know, maybe you hear these things as well. Accusation, challenge, and assurance. And it reminds me that even as we enter confusion, there is still a clarity that can be found, a beauty in the background that we may cultivate and attend, and by which we may be compelled an inherent beauty and depth to each and all of us, and between every being, that enables us to act from a sense of calm and compassion. So hopefully in the midst of all this tumult, in the midst of all the totally mystifying and terrifying political rhetoric being supported by a frightening number of our citizens, in the midst of continued perpetuation of violence against blacks and Latinos and children and transgendered people, in the midst of the desolation of democracy and the defilement of our planetary habitat, in the midst of our confusing comfort among this discomfort, I hope and pray that there is a clarion voice, ragged with centuries purified by eons of evolution and history, speaking through any number of guises and media, but also inherent in each and every one of us, that still small voice that calls us not only to the task of integrity and compassion, but assures us the cost of its accomplishment is the only thing that we have to give. That is our living. And it's worth it. And it must be reckoned with again and again and again and again for us to have the courage of our convictions. Freedom has a cost. It has many costs, in fact, and there are many kinds of freedom, political and spiritual. The cost of what freedom we do have has been paid by our ancestors, but now we are the ancestors of tomorrow. And in many ways, the cost of our sense of political freedom in this country has been hard won, but it has also been at the expense of others. But this is a false sense of freedom, for we are not free when any part of a system that we are a part of spends so much of its resources intentionally or automatically oppressing others. We are the ancestors now. What shall we do? Where is our righteous path? To me, I think it must reside at the intersection of that political and spiritual freedom. For if there is a righteous path, it is trod only by those who have passed beyond the hooks of fear, by those who are empowered and compelled by something, be it an idea or a deity, but by something more abiding than our sensual world. And that voice rests in every human heart. The trouble is, within the walls we've built to protect us from the cacophony of life, it may be hard to hear it. So my wish for you is that in the midst of this confusion, that voice rings clear.